Chapter 13, W.A.I.T, W-A-I-T, Why Am I Talking? Learning to Listen and When to Talk for People with ASD. I thought for a long time about whether or not this deserved its own chapter. But then again, why miss an opportunity to overtalk about overtalking? I am a man that tests the patience of patient men. Therefore, I know a few really good dudes that are really great listeners and great conversationalists. Just a few, just a very tiny few, but don't give up, ladies. Most of them are just really weird and awoke. And no, I'm not talking about an entire ASD community. I'm a bit of a wreck, and I use a bit liberally. It takes a special kind of human to love me and deal with me over a long period of time. I'm like owning oceanfront property. You think you want it until you realize how much it actually costs to live on the beach, how little time you actually spend in the water, and not to mention what the ocean does to your hair. I look like a lot of fun from afar, and I am a lot of fun, but I also take a little bit of management and awareness. I overtalk because I am comfortable speaking and uncomfortable when I don't know who is supposed to be speaking. If we strike a topic of interest to me, I ask a lot of questions and I can seem like I'm interrogating people, but this is why I make a great podcast host. I'm interested in people and what makes them tick. If I remember to listen, I'm a great conversationalist. The problem is, while I'm listening, I will forget about what I want to contribute and get lost in a story and forget what I was going to ask or add. So when I'm not interrupting, it can appear that I'm not listening because I stop responding because my eyes may wander. I have to remember to engage verbally and not look at your shoes or your lips when you talk. When people talk to me, I can picture their lives like a movie in my head. When I'm conducting a podcast, no one gets upset with me when I sit and write notes while people are talking. So I'm in my element. I'm allowed to get lost in a story. Again, the notebook will help you in not over-talking. So believe it or not, the notebook will help you with regular conversations, interviews, and group masterminds. I brought a notebook into every interview that I've ever been on. It helps me not to interrupt everyone. It also helps me to let go of topics that get moved on from without my contribution. Sometimes, when writing down notes, I find that someone else has a similar or better note and was just not interrupting the speaker. When people talk and think I am not interested in their story, a lot of times, I am. My mind is just racing about something else that is going on or someone else that is making noise around us. And so I am very interested, but I start getting impatient. When people get distracted about telling me their story and they start doing other things, it becomes infuriating for me. I'm so interested that when little things interrupt the story, they're hard to deal with, and it takes a great deal of energy to process it properly and keep moving. Or frankly, I'm more interested in something else in that moment. Communicating with an ASPE a lot of times is about finding or making the right time to talk to them. This will sound cold or strange to the neurotypical world, but a schedule is something that we keep for a reason. Scheduling a time to talk or speak together will set up the expectation and help us listen and be in the right headspace to communicate effectively. If that is daily, okay. If it's weekly, that's understood. Suddenly taking over a day because of a problem that is being dragged out that now needs to affect the schedule will not be well received. Addressing a problem during transition, when we're getting ready to go or have 15 minutes before we need to go, is not going to be well received either. I suggest saying something like, we need to talk for about 10 to 15 minutes before you leave or when you get home. Now, I know that this conversation will have an end, and I also have some choice over when it's had. So I will be able to be more present and be able to deal with it effectively. If I'm in my writing time and I know that I have an appointment or if I have to leave in 45 minutes, I have 15 minutes left to write before I have to get in the shower, and now all of a sudden I'm confronted with a problem. I know I can deal with it now, or I can finish my routine and have more time after my appointment. Sometimes I will plot down a few notes, take care of it quickly so I don't have it hanging over my head all day. Other times I will assess the problem and I might decide to wait until after work. If my back is against the wall with time, it is very hard for me to concentrate. I will have difficulty not shutting down or getting frustrated. I'm not efficient in communication when I'm backed into a corner, and so I have to work to remain calm and not pay attention to what is happening around the conversation, but to the conversation itself. Multitasking is not possible for my brain. I zone in and I focus on one thing. It is not the right time for that thing, or if I've been interrupted from what I'm doing, it just takes more energy for me to adjust. On days when I have been going for too long, or if I'm overexposed and I get very tired, I shut down. I burn out. This is either because of the constant adjusting of schedules to new people, to events, or because I'm masking and putting on a show all day. Interaction for me is intellectual and then emotional. I have to process everything. And that is why when I hear something, it stays with me. When people are critical of me or my work, it's hard for me to process. And so my default modes are over talking because I can't process everything that's coming in, shutting down so I can just bear the lecture, or I walk off to process and avoid it. The over talking is either triggered by something that I'm inspired by or a coping mechanism. I am intense as hell, and I can get going on a one-sided tangent. So I carry my notebook to write down what I need to process that might not need to be said. And I ask myself, why am I talking? Wait. This was something that was taught to me by a fellow veteran and a path guide. He's one of the most patient men that I know, and he will listen to me. Then he will take a deep breath, set up the expectation with his tone that I'm going to listen now, and then he will explain to me what I've been missing. I talk because it's my default. My mom told every girlfriend that I've ever had, and both wives, and everyone that she meets about how when I was 4 years old, I talked for 45 minutes once, uninterrupted. She decided to time me to see how long I could go. This can be endearing for adults, looking down at these little professors, observing the world with eyes much beyond their years, but adults find it obnoxious to listen to a person talk for 45 minutes straight, unless that person is on stage. People want to be listened to, heard, and understood. This is something that I have learned from my wife over the years. It is something that I have worked to implement in my own life. I learn a great deal when I can shut up long enough to hear other people speak. Part of the reason I've been so excited about my podcast is the opportunity to sit down with some of the most inspiring people that I know and listen to their stories and get a chance to figure out why they think what they think. I am an Aspie with boundary issues. I dive into people in a way that is only appropriate in podcasts and in interviews. This is also why I have conversations with people frequently where they cry and tell me things that they have never told anyone. They heal when I can shut up and listen long enough to hear what they need to speak about. This was a learned habit. I enjoy talking to people on an intellectual level, but when I started listening to people and wondering, why are they talking? And applying the same saying to the world around me, I hear the world talk to me about their pains, their joys, and their dreams because they need to tell someone. Why am I talking? I wait, W.A.I.T, and I listen, and I wonder. Sometimes I'm talking because I'm uncomfortable or scared. Sometimes I talk because I'm having fun and getting lost in the joys of a great conversation. I lose track of the world around me, and I am intensely engaged. This is why I love and hate the cell phone. I love it because it connects us to those that are far away. But I hate it because it disconnects us from the people that are in the room. When you are present in a room full of absent people, it can be easy to overtalk to fill the void or choose to disengage entirely. The latter takes less energy and is more suited to my nature. I don't have many friends, and the friends I do have, I meet with infrequently. And this can be isolating. I have many passionate people that I work alongside in short bursts, but prolonged engagement show the social abnormalities that are David Serpa. I get the invites, but rarely have the interest in planning to go out and meeting with anyone. I love long talks with 2 or 3 friends, late nights in diners or around fire pits where we talk about everything bigger than where we are now. That's not the world that we get to live in very often. More often than not, the conversations are superfluous time fillers and the day-to-day sustenance of life is lacking. It is all sugar and no meat. It is no wonder that our souls are so tired. I speak openly. I speak nakedly. And I live life a little bit recklessly. I am notorious for putting my foot in my mouth and speaking too loudly, too quickly. And I'm not someone that waits for people to tell me what to think. When people start repeating back to me conversations I've already heard other people have, more eloquently, I know where it is going and I want to cut it off. The problem is that sometimes I am wrong and they have their own conclusions. Every once in a while, I'm wrong. Learning to listen improved my ability to speak more clearly and concisely. Just like the best way to learn how to lead is to learn how to follow. Even the greatest of leaders modeled their leadership after their parents, mentors, and people that they looked up to from afar or read about. I will once again credit my journal for giving me the ability to shut up. Often the minds that are the most closed are accompanied by the mouths that are the most open. The professional wrestlers of the thinking world, shouting someone else's opinions and thoughts more loudly than their opponent. Fear-based mongrels. I used to be one of them, and I'm still guilty at times. I was so sure of the things that I didn't know when I was young. Journaling gives me the opportunity to sound it out before I talk it out with the world. Flannery O'Connor said, "I write because I don't know what I think until I read what I say. It helps me flush it out. It helps me download. And it helps me create music, books, inspired social media posts, or piles of trash. Either way, I feel better once I've had my intellectual bowel movement of the day. Plus, it keeps me from spinning out of control for the rest of the day. I just have to be careful from screaming Eureka on the internet before I talk to my wife. A lot of times I want to share my thoughts about the world immediately with as many people as possible. In those moments, I have to flush it out on my own. It is easy to be hot-headed and impulsive. Just look everywhere. It works against my nature to let control of anything go. Therefore, I talk. In letting go of control, I find love. Love and connection lurk in the listening. The most amazing, life-changing conversations that I've ever had with people are often the ones where I have said very little, but allowed other people to speak and gave them a comfortable place to be heard. They hear themselves being echoed back to them, feel affirmed, and they heal. No one has ever healed completely or fallen in love completely without being heard. So my challenge to all the people listening and intellectualizing is to W.A.I.T before you talk. If you find you are over-talking, apologize, and then see if you're urged on. When I get excited, I can interrupt people. Some of my friends bulldoze on and ignore my interruption, and I totally get it. Others stop talking, look at me patiently, and I realize I'm doing it, and then I let them go. Or some let me talk, remember what they were talking about, and then go back to the topic with ease after my tangent. This all takes incredible conversational talent. There are times where I get going, and I feel compelled to talk to a person or people, and I will feel that I'm over-talking. In that moment, I say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I tend to over-talk at times." And at this time, they will either say, "No, please go on," if they're interested. Or they will take the opportunity to say something along the lines of, "Oh, I do the same thing," and change the topic. Be okay with them changing the topic. Remember, why am I talking? Thank you guys for watching. Tomorrow I will be reading chapter 14, Undiagnosed Autism Spectrum Disorder. Have a great day, everyone.